This is part 2 of 4, the Stegosaurus. What are the functions of those plates? There's the mighty Thagomizer, which we just talked about in part 1. It's a great defensive weapon. But what are the functions of those plates? The big mark of the roof lizard. So we have to think about what they may be for. A good way to do that is, what are all the things animals do to stay alive? What happens in the day of a life of a big land herbivore, such as a bison or an elephant? So if we put our little thinking caps on, what do animals do? You should probably stop the video and make a list, see what you can come up with, and what may apply to plate function. Science really is a thinking game. Here we go. Animals move. Well, almost all of them move really well. They drink and feed. Yay! Animals move and eat. They move and eat. Big qualities in animals. Always keep that in mind. They socialize and mate. Predator protection. Yeah, you got to protect yourself. And there are various ways, of course, to do that. Breathe. Big believer in breathing. Don't stop breathing. Take my word for it. I'm a doctor, just not a real doctor. Bathroom breaks. Everyone poops. I waited for years for this book to come out, so I understood that. And then, of course, peeing. I don't think there's a peeing book, but there should be. Sleeping is very good. We love to sleep. Regulate body temperature. Often overlooked. Fight parasites and disease. It's pretty important there, isn't it? So, think about everything an animal does just to survive day to day. Not missing anything. So there's something we should consider, particularly in relation to bony plate function. Most of these can be easily eliminated as plate functions. Moving around. Well, did the plates flap like Dumbo's ears? Ooh, wouldn't that be a sight? No, they did not. Feed and drink. Well, they're not straws or anything like that, are they? No, that's rather silly. Mate and socialize. Big funny structure on top of the body. Oh, yeah. That's quite the advertising billboard, I bet. So that's a check. Predator protection. Yes. They're not armor, but look what they do to the body. See if you can figure out why I think predator protection is a minor function, at least. Breathing. I don't think we're breathing through plates. Bathroom breaks. That's not where stuff comes out. So that's a no. Sleep. Nope. Regulate body temperature. Big flat plates on top of the body. Oh, yes. It's a high surface area, so that could be a definite yes. Fight parasites and disease. I don't think so. So they're not armor, but look what they do to the body. The plates make it look bigger, more menacing to predators. So if we look at this little situation, here comes trouble. In the film The Gods Must Be Crazy Too, a hyena dashes towards a little kid. He takes a log and puts it on top of his head to appear bigger, as in hopefully too formidable to attack. And it works until the log breaks. And then he gets it back on his head. Puffing up is seen in many animals. Here's an epic red panda standoff, right? And of course, puffing up includes humans. Here's the formidable Rebecca from Ted Lasso. Humans puff up in a number of ways. To gain a psychological advantage in looking larger, one might stand taller, wear heeled shoes, and or wear uniforms with hats and broad shoulders. And look, here's a perfect example. And can you ever have too big of an epaulette on your shoulder? I don't think so. If you look at the lion, it permanently has a large display, its mane. And the size of the mane and the health of the mane is also a sexual signal to females. Ooh, he's big and healthy. I shall mate with him. And of course, some animals just don't appear bigger. They actually puff up, literally. And here, this one has spines too. So you might think twice about trying to swallow. Too big and too spiky. For matings and socializing, it's common for animals to have display structures in bright colors, typically in males. And why are males more showy? Can you figure that out? You look across the animal kingdom, it's almost always the males who have the showy structures. The females tend to play it smarter. See if you can figure out why. Here's a brown anole, a female and a male. You can see the female's camouflaged well. Smart, see? And the male has bright dewlap. That stands out, even to predators as well as, of course, females. So, risky. Here's a female rainbow lizard who has pretty good camouflage. The male rainbow lizard, not so much. So, very risky behavior, but apparently it's worth it, to attract the females and make babies. Stegosaurid plates were certainly prominent, would have been great for color displays, and this was almost certainly true in male stegosaurids. Female stegosaurids, maybe. So, reconstructing the look. Pattern and color are rarely preserved in the fossil record, but there are some nice instances where it has been. So when artists and paleontologists reconstruct extinct animals, how do they know what to choose? What do they know? How do they know what it looks like? This one here is a very nice reconstruction. It looks realistic, and it's a total camouflage pattern. So probably forest, given the color. Here, we have tans and stripes. So I'm thinking open, hot area, where there's sand and a lot of rock exposed. But, as this artist did the plates in a bright flame color to advertise. And here's another one with the plates brightly colored, but the body pattern looks like it's forest camouflage. So how do we know? Well, we rely on what's reasonable based on modern animals and what we know of the natural world. Knowing habitat types such as arid sand dunes or tropical forests is a big help in deciding colors and patterns. Obviously, most animals want to camouflage. Whether you're predator or prey, you don't want to be seen if you're sneaking up or if you're being sneaked upon. Also, we sometimes have information on sociality from footprints or mass deaths, and that tells us, oh my gosh, they were very social. So they likely had good signals in color and pattern, just like animals today. If an animal occurs in groups at least part of the year, it's more likely, of course, to have color patterns for communication. And what's reasonable? That's reasonable. A little showy, but it's certainly not unrealistic. This one, no. Purple and pink, and a little orange, a black underbelly. There's no counter shading. Oh, no, that's a no-no. A funny blue tail, no. So that's not realistic. So plates have striking colors, at least in males. Are they just for display? If so, we'd expect the plates to differ greatly between males and females. Females with no plates are small ones. Sexual dimorphism is what biologists love to say. And that means two shapes between the sexes, as in obvious trait differences between females and males, excluding their reproductive anatomy. So horns, antlers, things like that. Seda in 2015 reported that shape differences in the plates of Hesperosaurus and mjosi are dimorphic. That's, of course, if the two morphs are the same species, which sometimes can be tricky, especially with a small sample size. So, sexual dimorphism in the plates. There's a rounded morph in Hesperosaurus and an angular morph. Portions of at least 5 adult skeletons were found. One morph had the wide oval plates and the other had the tall, narrow plates. And so the rounded morph and the angular morph would have looked something like that. And if they are the same species, that's a sexually dimorphic feature, very distinctive. Hesperosaurus mjosi was first described in 2001 by Carpenter and others. In 2008, Maidment and others assigned the species to Stegosaurus. Isn't that interesting? Carpenter disagreed with the reassignment, as did Christensen in 2010. Later, Raven and Maidment recognized Hesperosaurus and Miragaia as valid genera. The narrowmorph is still part of Hesperosaurus mjosi, then the sexual dimorphism described by Seda is correct. And those are the same species, and the male and females look different, strikingly different, at least in profile. And you shouldn't let this bother you. These type of disagreements go on. Science is a self-correcting philosophy. Things change as data comes in and new arguments are made. And hopefully, as time marches on, we get more accurate and better ideas about what was. Here are examples of high sexual dimorphism. We have the gorilla. Take a look how big the male is. You also have silverback, and notice the prominent crest on the head. Here's the mandarin duck. Guess which one is male? The mandrill, male's bigger and showier. They will fight rivals for the right to mate with a female, and they want to look sexy for the female. The elephant seal, look how small the female is compared to the male. The male will have a whole harem, many females. Take a look at the big proboscis on the male. They like to show off. It shows how big and healthy and strong they are. Then we have the brown anole again. You can see the males are distinctive for their colorful dewlap. Other than that, they look the same now. Sexual dimorphism in dinos. Many have proposed sexual dimorphism, and it's certainly expected in most, as we expect in any animal group. But, contradicting other studies, Mallon in 2017 studied sexual dimorphism in dinos, analyzing measurements from these ones: Coelophysis, Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, Kentrosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Plateosaurus, and Protoceratops. He could find no support for strong sexual dimorphism in the skeletons of these 9 dinos. But Hone and Mallon looked at dimorphism in dinosaurs, claiming that it's hard to detect without knowing how their body changes as they age, and of course, without large sample size. Those are tall orders for dino fossils. You're lucky to find a good partial skeleton, like 30 or 40%, much less dozens of the same species. That's rare. These requirements met fairly well by the finds of Protoceratops, Allosaurus, and Coelophysis, but Mallon still found no obvious dimorphism. But analysis of an exceptional find by Ludwig Smith and Ibrahim in 2023 found a mass death of over 60 ornithomemosaurs. Rare to have a large sample of definitely one population. Mass death, all killed at once, all together. Skeletons could be told apart by slight differences in the femur, as in birds and crocodilians. Very subtle, but still difference found. Interestingly, they found an equal number of females and males in the herd. You might expect more females. Being male animal tends to be a little harder and a little riskier, so you tend to die a little more often. Otani tackled the problem from the point of view that incorrect analyses have been done. He analyzed 139 living species that are sexually dimorphic with a statistical method previously used to look for dino dimorphism, and found that it recognized only 5% of the living species correctly. So he tested the statistics used on extinct things on modern things, which should always be done. See how well you're doing. It's a good test. Making some adjustments to the statistical methods, Otani recognized sexual dimorphism in about 50% of the 139 living species. So it's not perfect or great, but it's good. And in part, Mallon did not find dimorphism because he did not remove statistical outliers, the way out of whack data. So Montani confirmed dimorphism in Allosaurus fragilis, Hesperosaurus and Josie, Protoceratops and Jusai, Chichosaurus hui, and so far, sexual dimorphism recognized in dinosaur skeletons is mostly subtle. But one would presume that such advanced archosaurs, crocodile and bird relatives, that group of reptiles and their descendants, would commonly have dimorphism, particularly of those that lived in groups, even if for just part of the year for mating and nesting, and then they split up after that. And known groupies among dinosaurs include sauropods, duckbills, ceratopsians, ornithomemosaurs, and Coelophysis. They hung out in pretty big groups for some of them. Sauropods, small groups. Most dimorphism must have been in the skin, color and pattern, and then size and shape. Maybe they had something like frills and dewlaps, but mostly color and pattern. Plates of striking colors. Are they just for display? What are all the functions of the plates? What's most important? Why are they there? They all run along the spine, very extensive. That much bone's a huge investment. Why not one row instead of 2 if just for display? It seems like a waste. One row that stood upright would also make it better. It'd be a little taller, a little higher. Why not just a head crest or tail fan? Why run plates all the way along the body? Study by Hayashi and others of juvenile to old adult skeletons conclude that the presence of the vascular networks in the plates of a young adult indicate a secondary use of the plates as a thermoregulatory device for heat loss. So they regulate body temperature. There's an elephant's ear, a toucan's bill. Get rid of heat. The time when dinosaurs lived was mostly a very warm world. including the late Jurassic, was a little cool, especially towards the poles, but still, where Stegosaurus lived, you're talking tropical, subtropical temperatures. So very warm. Staying warm is easy, even if you're cold-blooded. Getting too hot is difficult, or keeping cool under hot conditions is difficult. Hayashi and others thought the primary function was to make it look bigger to help attract mates and deter rivals. If this is true, then we'd expect females not to have large plates, or perhaps no plates. Authors did conclude that the plates do not show a similar degree of bone compaction or thickening as a thagomizer, so they were too fragile to be active in defense. And they're in the wrong place for defense anyway, right? Well, you can decide. From a discovery of a skin impression from the plates in Hesperosaurus, the surface was smooth with long, parallel, shallow grooves indicating a horny cover, as in a bird's bill or cow's horn, over the plates. So they were covered in horny material or keratin. Would a horny covering make them viable for defense? Would it really add strength for that? The author stated that horny covering would make heat transfer highly ineffective. But a study of bovid horns shows that a keratin covering is not a barrier to heat loss. In fact, a keratin sheath provides limited resistance to heat loss, shown a long time ago. Horns in tropical forms have more blood vessels and a thinner keratin covering, leading to significant heat loss. And those of temperate forms conserve heat. Tropical antelope kept in zoos of cold regions have gotten frostbite at their horn tips. Give you some idea of the importance of heat regulation. Warm animal in a cold area, not good. Also, the vertical horn position of tropical species such as the scimitar oryx, the roan antelope, and bongo enhances heat loss when air circulates around them. And in temperate species such as the big-horned Dall sheep, the low horn position has the opposite effect, helps conserve heat. And that's the end of part 2 of 4. Meow.